This is a story about comfort foods. To this day, there is nothing that satisfies like grits. Grits is the subject of ridicule and some jest in my Pacific Northwest home, but still a staple of Southern cuisine. I learned to fix grits the night of the fire. And fix is what you do. You don't cook them, you don't boil them, you don't dribble any maple syrup on them, and you don't add sugar. And you don't eat them with a spoon. You got to use a fork. Why, Mama? Why do you have to use a fork? She opened the window to let some of the smoke get out. Oh, you have to use a fork because the grits sit up on the prongs of the fork. If you get a hold of runny grits, it could make you go blind. We picked up scraps of the burnt tissues and paper. Even though it was late, she marched me down to the kitchen, pulled out a wooden stool so I could stand and stir. She pretended that she was drying jelly glasses and finally said, "About the fire." And I knew there was a tongue-licking coming, and I wanted to change the subject. It was hot. It was hot standing there stirring with the blue flames of the gas stoves just bubbling underneath the iron pot. "How'd you learn how to fix grits, Mama?" "Oh, well, in the fire of Pompeii, there was a diary that was found in the ruins. Queen Jemima had written down all the lore and the history of grits. You know, it takes 1,000 years to grow one grit underground. It grows from the intense pressure and the heat of the earth. Mama said it was like the heat of the devil's kitchen, what could burn up a house if there was a little fire that caught on." Do coal miners get our grits, Mama?" "Oh, no. Grit miners lower themselves down into the earth. It's a very dangerous job. They're losing grit miners every year, but they do it so we can have grits on the table. It's the heat that gets them. Fiery heat. It could burn a city down. It gets so hot." I stirred. She stared. I stirred. She kept drying those dishes and staring at me till I was feeling right sorrowful. And I just exploded and said, "Mama, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to catch anything on fire. I just wanted to see if the matches would light." "Where did you get matches?" So I had to tell her all about that whole week. Every time I went into the bathroom, this little cylinder of matches kept winking at me, kept calling to me. I knew what it was. It was my brother Shaq's Boy Scout case full of matches, and I just had to see them. I just had to see that little shiny case. I opened it up, I looked down, and there they were, wooden matches with a red pecker red tip, just calling me. So I took one and I struck it. Nothing happened. I took another one, put it next to the first one. Struck it. Nothing happened. Did it a third time. So I took all of the matches, struck them on the side of the case, and they went up in orange and red flames so fast. I tried to blow them out. I tried to shake them out, and finally I just threw them in the trash, and the smoke started, and then they burned the bottom side of the wooden vanity, and then you came in, Mama. She took her wooden spoon and stirred the grits, probably to see if all the water was out, added a chunk of butter. That's a certified measurement. It's larger than a tablespoon but smaller than a side dish. Added a pinch of salt. And then we sat at the kitchen table, eating. I wanted to see if my 6-year-old self was ever going to see 7. Finally, she said, "Have you learned your lesson?" And I had. I never would play with matches again, but I would eat grits all my life. I fixed them for breakfast, for supper, and late at night for a child who's woken from a nightmare or a foolish curiosity. I feed them grits tell them about the fire in Pompeii and how a child started out with a wooden match. Watch them savor Southern on their tiny tongues while I fuel their memory and fire their imagination. I'm Aunt Mama, and that's a little tale from my neck of the woods. Thank y'all for watching.